I've lived long enough to know that quiet men are the most dangerous kind. Not dangerous like a storm, dangerous like still water before it floods. My son Joseph is one of those men. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't make scenes. He simply watches, calculates, and when the time comes, he acts. I'm Margaret. I'm 72 years old, and I raised my boy to be a gentleman. To be patient, generous, and kind. What I never anticipated was that some people he invited into his home, into his life, would mistake that kindness for weakness. That was their first mistake. Their last, as it turned out. It was a Sunday. Joseph had invited the whole family for dinner, me, his two brothers Billy and Thomas, their wives. He'd spent all afternoon cooking. That's who Joseph is. A provider. A man who shows love through effort. His wife Darcy was there, chatting away with the girls. And then there was Shay. Darcy's daughter, 23 years old, college senior, nose buried in her phone like the rest of the world didn't exist. Not a hello. Not a smile. Just that screen, glowing in her face while the rest of us tried to have a family meal. Now, I don't ask for much from young people. A little eye contact. Hello, how are you? Basic courtesy. So when I tried to make conversation with that girl, asked how her classes were going, and she gave me a one-word answer without even glancing up. I noticed. But I'm a polite woman. I tried again. What are you studying again, honey? That's all I asked. Joseph stepped in, gently, proudly, to answer for her. Said she was majoring in communications, senior year, lots of options ahead. He was trying to include her. Trying to make her feel seen. The girl looked up from her phone like he'd insulted her ancestors. Stop acting like you know anything about my life. She said it loud enough for every fork at that table to stop midair. Then she delivered the words that changed everything. You're not my dad. You're just some guy my mom married. Just some guy. I felt my face go from shock to furious in about 2 seconds flat. Thomas choked on his water. His wife looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Billy and his wife Lexi stared at their plates. And my son sat perfectly still. Didn't flinch. Didn't react. Just quietly filed it away. You know what I noticed most? Darcy's reaction. Not horror. Not the response of a mother mortified by her child's cruelty. It was more like inconvenience. As if the problem wasn't what Shay said, but that she'd said it in front of company. That told me everything. Let me tell you who my son is, so you understand what that girl threw away. Joseph spent his 20s and 30s building something from nothing. An accounting practice, long hours, weekends, every dollar saved. His first marriage didn't survive it. She wanted a family and he was always working. They parted without bitterness, and he kept going. By the time he was 38, he had a beautiful home, real financial security, and nobody to share it with. That's a particular kind of loneliness. Having everything and coming home to silence. Then he met Darcy. A fundraiser of all places. She was working the check-in table, warm smile, genuine energy, a single mother working hard to give her daughter a fighting chance. Her ex had vanished when Shay was 6. Just left. Moved across the country, sent a handful of checks, then disappeared entirely. No calls. No visits. Gone. Joseph respected that woman. Respected that she was holding her life together with dignity. They dated for over a year. He was careful. He wanted to be sure. And when he was sure, he married her. He gave Shay the master bedroom in his 5-bedroom home, because he wanted her to feel at home. He paid off Darcy's car as a wedding gift. He covered all household expenses. When Shay applied to university, he told her not to worry about tuition. He'd handle it. Darcy wept. Said he was too generous. Said Shay was lucky to have him. Shay even hugged him that day. For years and nearly $250,000 later, tuition, apartment, car, insurance, credit card, laptop, textbooks, spring break trips, summer programs, that same girl looked at my son across his own dinner table and called him just some guy. I want you to sit with that for a moment. The signs had been there for years. I saw them. His friend Anton saw them. Even Billy and Lexi saw them. That first Thanksgiving after the wedding, Shay came home from college and walked straight past Joseph like he was furniture. I gently suggested she join our family conversation at the dinner table. She rolled her eyes and said her friends were dealing with drama. I smiled and changed the subject. But I saw my son's face. On the drive home, he mentioned it to Darcy. She told him Shay was an adult and he needed to stop trying to parent her. And that became the pattern. Every time he tried to address the disrespect, Darcy shut it down. Every time tuition was due or the car needed new tires, suddenly his input was welcome again. Last Christmas, he'd bought that girl a new laptop and a designer coat she'd been admiring. She opened them, said a flat thanks while scrolling on her phone, and immediately showed her mother, as though Joseph wasn't even present. Then Darcy gave her a simple piece of jewelry and Shay got emotional. Hugged her. Called it the most meaningful gift. He told me about that night on the phone. I could hear it in his voice, not anger, just quiet hurt. I told him he deserved more. He said he was working on it. His friend Anton said it plainly one Saturday. That girl treats you like hired help. Joseph defended her. Said it took time. Anton shook his head and said, how much time? At some point you have to accept who people are. Anton was right. Joseph just wasn't ready to hear it yet. After the dinner guests left, after the dishes were done in unbearable silence, Joseph went to Shay's room. Calm. No raised voice. Just a man asking for the bare minimum. What you said was disrespectful. I'm not asking you to like me. But when my family is here, basic respect is not optional. She laughed at him. Told him he wasn't family and she didn't owe him anything. And then Darcy appeared in the doorway, and delivered the sentence that sealed her fate. She's not your daughter. Stop trying to discipline her. My son smiled. Not a happy smile. The kind of smile that means a decision has been made. He walked to his office. Closed the door. Sat down at his desk. And didn't sleep a wink that night. By 3 a.m, Joseph was reviewing documents. Car title, his name, sole owner. University payment portal, automatic payment set up under his account. Apartment lease, his name as primary. Credit card, her as authorized user. Car insurance, his policy. Phone plan, his account. Everything that made Shay's comfortable life possible ran through one man. The man she just called just some guy. As the sun came up, he made 6 phone calls. First to his lawyer Daniel. A sharp man who didn't waste words. Daniel confirmed what Joseph already knew, everything was in his name. Nothing legally belonged to Shay. He could remove it all without her permission. Then the university, automatic payments cancelled, financial support withdrawn. The towing company, a vehicle titled in his name, needing collection. The apartment management, he offered 90 days notice and covered early termination. The bank. Shay removed as authorized user, card cancelled in 5 minutes. The insurance company, her vehicle removed from the policy. 4 years of support. Dismantled in under 2 hours. Before breakfast. When Darcy came through the kitchen ready for work and asked if he'd slept okay, he smiled and said he was fine. Had some things to handle. She kissed his cheek and left for work. Had absolutely no idea what was waiting for her when she got home. The tow truck arrived at 3 that afternoon. Shay was still asleep, that girl could sleep through a hurricane. The driver hooked up the car and drove off in 12 minutes. Joseph went back inside and waited. Around 5, she came downstairs. Helped herself to the refrigerator. Started heading back up. Then she glanced out the window. "Where's my car?" Joseph looked up from his files. Explained calmly that his car, titled in his name, had been towed. That it had never been her car. That he had allowed her to use it because he believed they were family. And that she had made it very clear they were not. She called her mother in a panic. Darcy left work immediately. When Shay checked the university portal and saw her enrollment had been withdrawn, her face went white. When Joseph explained that the apartment lease terminated in 90 days, she was shaking. When he walked past her toward his office and she grabbed his arm. She let go the moment he stopped and looked at her hand. Darcy arrived home furious. Pounded on his office door. "You can't destroy her life because you got your feelings hurt." Joseph opened the door and said, "I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped paying for it." When Darcy accused him of being cruel, he reminded her, 4 years of being the bigger person. 4 years of biting his tongue. And when he finally asked, once, for basic respect in his own home, they both made it clear where he stood. He also closed the joint bank account. Darcy's card declined at the grocery store a few days later. That's when she truly understood the weight of what had happened. "He called me about 10 days after the dinner. His brother Billy had already told me there was trouble. I wasn't surprised. I told him, 'That girl was rude to you in my presence, and you handled yourself with more grace than she deserved.' He thanked me. Then I said something I meant from the bottom of my heart. I did not raise you to be a doormat. You stood up for yourself, and that takes courage. But make sure you're doing this from principle, not just from anger." He said it was principle. I believed him. Lexi, Billy's wife, had hugged Joseph extra long at the end of that dinner. No words needed. The whole family saw what happened and whose side we were on. Shay tried everything. First she ignored him, assuming he'd soften. He didn't. Then came tears at the kitchen table, full breakdown about her ruined life. Joseph made himself breakfast, ate it, and went to work. Then came yelling, door slamming, name calling. He looked at her calmly and said, "Finally, we agree on something. I'm not your dad." She went to the university and tried to sort out financial aid. They told her she could apply for loans, but it would take time. The semester was already underway. She had to withdraw. Lost the entire term. Without the car, she was dependent on Darcy for transportation. Without classes, there was no reason to be at the apartment. So she moved back home. Into Joseph's house. Living under his roof, eating his food, while resenting his existence. She eventually got a job at a clothing store, the kind of work she'd always said was beneath her. After her first paycheck from standing on her feet for 8 hours dealing with difficult customers at minimum wage, she came home and vented to her mother in the kitchen. Joseph was making dinner. Without looking up he said, "Welcome to how most people live." She glared. But something shifted in her face. The first small crack in that armor. 6 weeks after that Sunday dinner, Darcy asked Joseph to sit down and really talk. She said, "I made a mistake. I should have backed you up. I should have told Shay she was wrong. Instead, I made you the problem." Joseph listened. Then he said, "You thought I was bluffing. You thought I needed you more than you needed me. You were wrong on both counts." She asked if he still loved her. He thought about it honestly and said, "I don't know. You changed something when you chose her over me. I'm still figuring out what's worth keeping." He told her Shay was welcome to earn her way back. Through loans, through work, through actually becoming independent. But the free ride was over. And they, as a couple, would need to decide if they were truly partners, or if she had simply married a solution to her problems. 3 days after that, Shay knocked on his office door. She sat across from his desk and didn't speak for a long moment. Then, I'm sorry. For what I said. For how I treated you for 4 years. He asked what had changed. She said working. Having a manager criticize her every move, having customers treat her poorly, having to earn money she could see disappear from her wallet. I didn't appreciate what you did. I saw it as something you were obligated to do. I know now that you weren't. Joseph leaned back and told her, I never needed you to love me. Never needed you to see me as a father. I just needed you to treat me like a person who deserved basic respect for showing up. That's all. The bar was on the ground. I know, she said. When she stood to leave, she paused at the door. Thank you for everything you did. I should have said that 4 years ago. Shay took the spring semester off and worked full-time. Applied for financial aid for the following fall, was approved for enough to cover most of her tuition. The rest she'll handle with loans. Her choice. Her responsibility. In April, she drove home in a used car she had bought herself, with money she had earned herself. She was proud. She showed Joseph when she pulled into the driveway. He congratulated her. And he meant it. Darcy is trying. Date nights, real conversations, asking about his day instead of updating him on Shay's latest crisis. It's slow work, rebuilding trust always is. Whether their marriage survives is still an open question. Joseph and Shay are not close. They may never be. But there is respect where there was none before. A civil word here, a nod of acknowledgement there. It's not a family story with a warm Hollywood ending, but it's an honest one. I am 72 years old. I have watched a lot of people confuse generosity for obligation. I have seen kind-hearted men and women give everything they had to people who never once stopped to say thank you, who simply assumed the giving would never stop. My son was patient for 4 years. He was generous beyond what anyone had a right to expect. And when he was finally pushed past the limit of what a decent person should endure, he didn't scream, he didn't threaten, he simply stopped. There's a lesson in that. Not a lesson about revenge. A lesson about self-respect. People will treat you exactly as well as you require them to. No better, no worse. Joseph stopped requiring. And so they stopped trying. The moment he required something, real, immediate, undeniable, the entire equation changed. He's not a villain in this story. Neither, perhaps, is Shay. She was a young woman who had been abandoned by her father and never truly taught how to receive love without taking it for granted. That's a wound. But it's not an excuse. Not at 23. Not when a good man showed up every single day for 4 years. He's my son. I raised him to be a gentleman. And gentlemen, it turns out, are not doormats. They are simply men who choose, very deliberately, when to stop being gentle. That Sunday dinner was the last time anyone in that house underestimated Joseph.